Welcome. I'm so excited today. We've got Amanda Rekunyk talking about hypnosis and the power of that. And I just want to say, before I let you introduce yourself and all of that, it was such a profound and powerful experience. I did 8 sessions with you, and they were really life-changing, in symphony, in concert with the other things I was doing. It was such a perfect model that it helped me really break through so much. And I think it's really important in this time. So, all right, sorry, I gushed too much. I'll hand the mic over to you, Amanda. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, your philosophy when you're doing hypnosis.
Thank you. My name is Amanda, and I am two-spirit, gender fluid. I'm from the Carrier and Coacatus Nations on my father's side, and Settler Nation on my mother's side. My pronouns are he, him, and she, her. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and astrologer, and my philosophies are rooted in abolition. So I do work on a sliding scale, prioritizing QT BIPOC community, and really look at healing and wellness through an abolitionist lens. So prioritizing rest and prioritizing ourselves so that we can be of benefit to each other.
Yeah, and that is such an important philosophy that I think we need to embrace in this kind of capitalist, kind of late stage capitalist place we are. A lot of the people who are going to be tuning in have people in my community keep talking about how exhausted they are, how overwhelming it is, that they want to be doing more good in the world. They want to be making a difference, and they're exhausted. They're confused. They're overwhelmed of, like, so many choices. I could do this or I could do that. I don't know what to do. And they haven't really had the time or space in a long time to nourish themselves. That is just going from task to task, doing thing to thing, crisis to crisis. The world situation is only highlighting that, and the injustices and the impact that is on the day-to-day with inflation, with you name it, we're in the soup of this. Yeah. And I think the part of this event is to really help people shift out of that, to say there is room for space for us to rest, for space for ourselves, for creativity, for pleasure, for joy. Right, to nourish ourselves. So that's what I think is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about what hypnosis is and isn't? Because I think a lot of people have weird thoughts of what hypnosis is.
Yeah, so hypnosis is a state of deep relaxation, and you utilize a hypnotherapist to help get you there. Pre-colonial times, pre-capitalist times, we would slip in and out of hypnosis so easily, right? Because we had time. We were in time. We would be outside, we would be observing things, and we would slip into hypnosis. And now we have things like meditation apps and things like that to help us along. But a hypnotherapist will help you get in deep. And hypnosis is a deep state of relaxation, where we bump aside the critical and the conscious minds that really do a lot of nattering in our head. That's what keeps our brain overactive. And we talk directly to the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where we generate our actions from, okay? Our subconscious mind holds our memories, our beliefs, our values, our ethics, and our past lives. And from that, we behave. And our subconscious mind is wide open from birth to 7, and then it slowly closes on the way up to 14. So every message you receive from an adult, a caregiver, a teacher, your environment during that time becomes a belief or a value about yourself. So if you believe that you have to perform at your topmost in order to be valued, then that's going to be how you behave. If you have a low sense of self-worth, that it'll come from that time when your subconscious is wide open. So we use hypnotherapy to bump aside the conscious and the critical mind so that we can talk directly to the subconscious mind and say, hey, our new belief is that we value time to relax and rest and rejuvenate and recover. We value the things we contribute to society so much that we also prioritize our own rest and our own well-being. And we teach our subconscious mind what our new values are, and then we can act from that new value, right? From that new belief system. And it's not that we get rid of memories, we don't change the past, but we look at them through a new adult developed lens, right? Which as a child, we lack so much context. We only have what's being presented to us and we take it as fact. And now we're adults, we can go back to those memories, those beliefs, and go, oh, I can see how it's incorrect. I can see how that belief has made my behaviors become like a self-fulfilling prophecy where I feel worthless, so I behave like I expect to be treated as worthless, and then I am, right? I lack boundaries. I lack asking for what I'm worth. I lack the ability or the skill set to ask for my needs to be met. And so we use hypnotherapy to change that. And the beautiful thing with hypnotherapy is it takes about 6 sessions to change any one goal. Right? 6 sessions of hypnotherapy are equivalent to 600 hours of talk therapy because we get in and get it done, right? We're not asking how last week was. We're not asking about your current events and how you coped with them. We're going to the root of the issue so that we can change things in your present day. Mm-hmm. And when we think about those 6 sessions, I just want to explain a little bit about what the content of them is. So in someone's first session of hypnotherapy, first of all, I make sure that we always have consent. Okay. So the first conversation is from now on, when you see anybody for hypnotherapy, it won't work unless you have given your therapist consent. Okay. And from there, the first session is direct suggestion. So if somebody comes to me for public speaking, let's say they want to improve their public speaking, the first session, we go through the relaxation process and inductions. And once we're in hypnosis, I demonstrate to the person that they are in hypnosis, and I explain that they're in hypnosis so that they know what it feels like, and we demystify what it feels like. And then we do direct suggestion, and I'll say to them, when you get onto the stage, you feel a rush of excitement. And as you see the people's faces, you recall all of the knowledge you want to share. And when you get to the podium, you find that you are hydrated and you are very well prepared and articulate. And as you start to speak, you see on the faces before you that what you're saying is resonating with them and they want to know more. Okay, so it's all very affirming stuff in that first session, the direct suggestion. Sessions 2 through 6, we use either regression therapy. So we will take the emotional quality of what we're experiencing and we will go back to the first time that it happened for us. And we work through the root issues that way. Or we can use something called parts therapy, because there is a part of you that wants to learn how to speak publicly. And there's a part of you that's anxious about speaking publicly. And so we go to the root of that, speaking to the various parts of you and get the parts of you to negotiate. Why are you scared to public speak? And the parts of you will bring up all their very valid reasons. And then the parts of you that are excited to public speak help the parts that are nervous to negotiate their roles and keeping you safe while you public speak, because that's usually the root, but encourage you to do the task all the same, empower you to do the task. And by the time we're done 6 sessions, people are usually ready to go forward from their issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was very much my experience. We didn't talk about public speaking. We were talking about kind of a constellation of things around rejection and being sensitive in general. That's some of the things we did together. And I loved one of the things you talked about early on in that process was kids, especially here before the advent of kind of smartphones and mobile devices all the time, that we would naturally be in that state as children, like when we're looking at the dust, the dust floating in the sunshine, or I would sit and watch we had a little family of prairie dogs. So just when we're just out my front window, so I just watch them, right? And then kind of be imagining different things.
We
right?
called it daydreaming.
Yeah, daydream. That's what that is, right? But that's what that state felt like. We're safe to be doing that more. And now I feel like in what I learned with you, I can come to that state myself much more easily, that I can be relaxed, that I can make note of various things that need tweaking, and I can ask for that support for my body as I need. One of the things I really was not sleeping for nearly 2 years, that my sleep was so, because of health things, So I will say that within a few sessions, I was sleeping better, and, and despite ongoing health things, I'm able to sleep. That gives me more capacity to face what else is going on. So it doesn't take very long to be in that. And, I don't trust all practitioners because I've had some bad experiences. Some people might also be in that. And I found you to be really supportive and a safe space to do that work, right? And like you're saying, that abolition is also the abolition that should we be working for money, right? Like all of these kinds of things that are givens under capitalism, like let's just adjust so we can continue this charade of capitalism and the world falling apart. That's not what you're preparing us for in those sessions. It feels like you are preparing us for something beyond what the current paradigm is giving us. So
yeah, and I'd like to talk about sleep just for a second here, because you touched on it.
Yep.
Most of us are sleep deprived. Most of us are addicted to our devices, and the blue light and all of that messes with our sleep, and we know this. With hypnosis, when you go into hypnosis, you get a delta wavelength of rest by being in hypnosis. That is what we require when we're sleeping. And when we're not getting a good sleep, when we're not getting that delta wavelength of rest, the conscious and the critical minds talk a lot. Don't forget to get these groceries. Don't forget about the meeting. Don't forget this. We got to get this bus. We got to pick up this person. We got to get the flowers. We got to get the dry cleaning. And we're not getting into that deep delta wavelength of rest. And we need to, because the conscious and the critical minds need that rest, because they either drop the information into the subconscious as something we need to remember, birthdays, bus routes, whatever, or they decide we don't need this anymore and they toss it out. And so if they're not getting that deep rest to make that to file away those thoughts correctly, they just keep spinning. So when people come to me for hypnosis for whatever, let's say public speaking, going into that delta wavelength with me fixes their sleep, because their conscious and their critical minds start doing their filing better, and their sleep gets reset just because they've started to come and do a delta wavelength with me in sessions. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. And just to add to that, with some of the research around neurodivergent brains in particular, like ADHD, there's a lot of research to show a lot of that reshuffling can't happen from the frontal lobe, can't be happening because of ADHD, because of the way it rewires, because of certain brain mechanisms. So any improvement we can have as neurodivergent folks, this is such a gift to basically trains our brains to be like craving that sleep, so then it can do the processes necessary to continue, and so that's amazing.
And I do work with people by Zoom, and in those sessions, I try to keep my process the same from each session. So the way I get people into hypnosis is going to be the same on first, second, third, fourth, all the way through, because I want the client to learn how easy it is, and they can do self-hypnosis, like you said, afterwards, right? Because as an abolitionist, I am anti-capitalist. I don't want to hoard the knowledge, hoard the healing. I want you to learn, and I want you to go and be able to treat yourself. Sometimes people come back to me for boosters a couple of years later and whatever they need. But if you can learn how to put yourself into a deep state of rest, when you get that 3 a.m. wake up, you're like, oh, right, I remember Amanda helped me with centering and grounding and counting back, and I'm resting myself.
Yeah, and it's amazing, because I think this is with the capitalist idea that we have to always be working, we always have to be on, and then this, when we think of a lot of the social justice work, the kind of negative things that come out of it, the kind of worry about I've done it wrong, someone's gonna hurt, like this kind of thing happens so much when we're trying to do something good, and then we get extra data points that say, this is not so good, and these are all ways we second guess ourselves. We don't allow for rest. We don't allow, because when we are centered and grounded, we're making very different decisions. We're showing up differently. We're responding versus reacting, right? And these are the things that we should be allowed to have, but we've been told we can't have, or that they're, only for some people. And I think you made it's so accessible. It's so easy to come into, so I think I'm so excited that we're doing this together. We're having this conversation. how do we know that we're a good fit for this? Like, how do we know? How can we self-identify? Like, I'm not sure what brought me to you. I knew you did it. You talked about I think maybe it's because we had spoken before in a reading, in the
Yeah.
astrology reading. Like, yeah, I'm struggling with something we had talked about in the astrology reading. And you said, I'm not currently doing hypnosis, but as soon as you opened up your practice, I was like, oh yes, I want to do this. That's how it happened. But how do people know that this is something that you can help with, that this is a thing that I should raise my hand and try now?
Yeah. So if there is something that is making your current day-to-day difficult, then you're a perfect client for hypnosis. If you need to make a change, then you're a perfect client for hypnosis. If you have experienced trauma, if you have experienced fears or phobias, or if you want to learn something new, but it seems like a challenge. I had somebody come to me because they were suffering from procrastination. Mm. And they canceled their second appointment with me a few times. And I was like, I'm going to cancel you as a client now because you're not fulfilling your side of the contract. And then they came for their remaining sessions. And then a year later emailed me and said, oh, by the way, I have a job and a mortgage and a live-in girlfriend. And I was like, so like literally everybody and anybody is a good fit for hypnosis. Find your practitioner that's a good fit for you, that has the same beliefs and values and ethics as you do. I'm not a good fit for people who are pro-capitalist.
Absolutely.
You know, and I have encountered those people who find hypnosis interesting, and as we talk, our values and ethics don't click, and so we don't book together because it just isn't a fit, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So finding practitioners who resonate with you on many levels in terms of their belief system. You know, like for me, a consent-based practice with all my trauma history is very important. Care around my medical history, right? That's something that I carry with me. So work with someone who can do that. But I also say, for me, because I just needed so much support, I kind of assembled a team, because I had my medical people, I had some alternative healers like yourself helping me, and it was and of course people like my ancestors or so on also were part of this journey, right? The land, all of these other things are the non-living beings that are still contributing in this way. We need to assemble that, right, for ourselves. This is part of that work, as when we're an adult and we want to now do something more, then we need to assemble this. And the last thing, which I didn't schedule, like I didn't schedule this, but a lot of the people that we're talking to want to do something great in the world, and they are really getting hung up. So can we speak to that a little bit? You've talked about public speaking and the necessity of sleep there, but how can this help us accomplish these great things that we have plans around?
I think when we start to prioritize ourselves and our own healing, and our own rest and our own capacity, like really getting in touch with what our personal capacity is, then we find our boundaries. Then we find our voice for our needs and our wants. And once we really know ourselves that way, we have an understanding of what it is we can give, right? But when we start giving from a place of just wanting to give and wanting to fix without knowing what our boundaries are, without knowing what our capacity is, and without knowing what our own needs and wants are, we burn out faster. So, and this, what you're doing is also community building. So we don't have to do it all on our own. There are other people that can do things better than you and faster than you and have the networks that you don't have. And maybe you just spark the idea, right? Maybe somebody else does the follow through, or maybe you're really competent with the follow through and there's a lot of ideas out there that you haven't come across, right? But self-knowledge and self-awareness and prioritizing ourselves is how we do better for other people.
Mm-hmm. That's
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm feeling you with that too, right? I've tried to do everything myself. That was a lot of the program, the immigrant kind of idea. We need to figure it out ourselves. That was very much the programming that I had growing up in the States, So because the family, like the relatives, live far away from us, so it's not like we can just call anybody and ask for help. So, but that's been a big thing: community building, nourishing myself, right? So these skills can take us really far. And that's, I love that quote, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you want this for the long haul. Like if we want to build something anti-capitalist for the long haul, we need to do it together. And this is the improve, the crucial things. And if we're coming to an attitude where we're running a team, or we're running an organization, or we're part of big projects, and we're not prioritizing people to have rest, and we're not listening to people's needs, and we're not building from that place, then the thing won't go, the project won't have longevity. This movement can't sustain itself in general. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. Is there anything you wish people knew, or kind of like that they, as we start to wrap up this question, that we didn't get to ask you, that you wish I had asked, or that you want to convey to us about hypnosis or about your work?
All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I am just a guide. And it's my hope that in 2023, people prioritize their own wellness and their own needs, getting in touch with that. Yeah.
What?
And I take books.
Yeah, sorry. 80.
That's okay.
Interrupting. Go ahead.
Same. I take bookings online, and I work with people internationally. So people can find me mostly on Instagram, or through my website, which is Amanda1312, which is 1312, which is the numeric representation of ACAB, which is all cops are bad. And I like to remind people of that because it's part of my philosophy.
Yeah. That's part of what the ethics you were referring to. Yeah,
and it's also something that screams out people. If they don't feel a resonance with that statement, then I'm not the person for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that kind of resonates even in the way you do your sessions. And so I'm not sure how to wrap this up, but I want to say the skills you have taught me were so important. And you saying that totally triggers for me, like in a good way, good trigger, a glimmer, right? Of all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, because you said that in every single session, the recording you sent me, that, so I hear that so often that I'm like, okay, yes, I can relax. I can take this moment. So that's one of the best gifts that I gave myself last calendar year. And I'm so glad I did that. So, here's to everybody, as you said, building those networks in the community and learning to slow down, nourish themselves, figure out their own self-awareness and needs, and leading from that place in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like, all right. Sorry, I'll edit the last bit. We'll cut this little bit out, me fumbling. I'm struggling to wrap up. Can you help me?
Yeah. Just thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's been a great little conversation. I've loved working with you and all the ways we've worked together. We've had a lot of great little collabs and time together, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. Yes, likewise. I love all of this. And if you need to get in touch with Amanda, all the details will be available on, around this video. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.